Joining us now from Philadelphia is NBC White House correspondent Carol Lee, who, of course, had that interview in Wall Street Journal. Here with me now, Wall Street Journal White House reporter Sabrina Siddiqui and American Action Forum President Douglas Holtz-Eakin, and a former CBO director and chief economist of the President's Council of Economic Advisors. So, Carol, first to you, the White House calling this a value statement. But when we look at these budgets, this is an opening offer, obviously. What are they willing to negotiate, do you think? And they're walling off entitlements and anything that would, some would say, get serious about really, dealing with the deficit by saying there's no room to negotiate on entitlements.
Yeah, Andrea, a lot of the proposals that the president is putting forward in this budget are non-starters for Republicans. He's well aware of that. Things like raising taxes on the wealthy, raising taxes on corporations. And a lot of the provisions in this budget, the proposals, are things that are familiar, things that the president was unable to get done even when Democrats had control of the House and the Senate. So it's really a wish list of what the president wants to do. And you mentioned Social Security and Medicare. Even if the president and Republicans can agree that they want to make sure to preserve those benefits and those entitlement programs, how to get there and how to achieve that, there's a wide gap in terms of the differences. The president is proposing, for instance, to shore up the Medicare trust fund, but the way he pays for that is these raising taxes on the wealthy and corporations, which again is something that Republicans are not going to support. That said, Shalanda Young, the OMB director, said that there are areas in this budget that they hope that Republicans and the White House can compromise on, things like rail safety, for instance. There's a $1.5 billion in the budget the president proposes for a rail safety fund that would provide grants to preserve rail safety. There's also things like crime prevention. That's something specifically that Shalanda Young said that she hopes that Republicans and the White House can come to some sort of an agreement on. Take a listen.
One thing that comes to mind is safer communities. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be controversial. It should be bipartisan to agree that we should have more cops on the beat in this country. The conversations around this have turned political, and people use it as political football. But if you're serious about it, work with us.
Now, one of the things, Andrea, that she said is that this budget is the beginning of a dialogue with Republicans. However, she's also repeated that the president will not negotiate around raising that debt limit later this summer, that negotiations on government spending will need to be separate from that.
Well, let's drill down on that some more. Sabrina, the president talked about, taxes. He's going to talk about the taxes. He's talking about raising taxes on the wealthy, not on middle class and people, working class people. But raising taxes at all in an election year can certainly become a, political tripwire.
Well, I think what the president and the White House are saying is that these tax increases would specifically be toward the wealthy and corporations, which is messaging that we've seen from Democratic administrations in the past as well. It was also core to President Obama's economic messaging. The White House says that, these tax increases are necessary to reduce the deficit as well as to offset costs for domestic spending. They're placing an emphasis on domestic priorities such as paid family leave, child care, health care, the solvency of entitlement programs such as Medicare and Social Security. Some of these tax hikes that they're proposing, just to recap, are, on increasing taxes on those earning more than $400,000 a year, 25% minimum tax on billionaires, doubling the capital gains tax, and doing away with the tax breaks for corporations that were signed under former President Trump. Look, it is dead on arrival in a Republican-led House, so we're not expecting any of this to become law, but it just lays the contours of the debate over spending, later this year, as well as gives us a preview of a potential, what will be core to, I think, President Biden's expected re-election campaign.
This is really like the 2024 kickoff, if in terms of the themes of the campaign. Doug, though, if, put on your CBO hat when you used to be a neutral, down-the-middle guy scoring these budgets, how would you score this, if there were a political, hope for getting any of this passed? Is it realistic in terms of deficit reduction?
I think if you look at the numbers, the key moment is going to be when the CBO looks at the economic impact of the president's budget. They do the scoring, then they do a separate analysis that says, okay, how much will the economy grow if we do all this stuff? And what Republicans are going to argue is that he's pretending you can tax the rich in isolation from everyone else, but in fact, we live in the same economy. This enormous increase in taxes is going to hurt growth. It's going to hurt the working people as a result. The CBO will reveal that if that's really what's in there. So that's the moment to look for coming down the road.
And let's talk about the debt ceiling, because that's the next real crisis. We can talk about budgets, but we all know how difficult it is to get anything passed in terms of a real budget here. But the debt ceiling is going to hit the wall in June, July, whenever that term. And what the Fed chair said yesterday in his testimony is there's nothing magical. There's no way around dealing with this.
That's exactly right. Even the thing they call prioritization, where we pretend we can pay the Treasury bills and not pay other bills, probably won't work in practice. And all that would do is delay the inevitable. They have to come to terms with the fact that this money is owed. You have to raise the debt limit to borrow it and pay the bills. And how they get there politically, I'm not smart enough to figure out, but they need to get there fast.
Carol, bring this back to what the president's willing to do on this. If he's not going to negotiate, I mean, that's just a starting point, right? At some point, he's not going to get a clean debt ceiling bill.
Yeah, look, this is their position, Andrea, for now. It remains to be seen exactly how this plays out. This is obviously very high stakes, and it's notable that President Biden, when he was vice president, was part of negotiations with House Republicans on cutting spending and in coalition with raising the debt limit. So this is something that he has done in the past. He's changed his mind since then for a number of reasons. But this is something certainly that the White House does not want to see happen on the president's watch, where the U.S. actually defaults.
And Sabrina, a big unknown here is Mitch McConnell, because Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden know how to negotiate with each other. They are friends, not only rivals, political rivals. And if there were any hope of getting around that House gridlock, it's Mitch McConnell. And now we don't know how long he's out for, and we're hoping that this is just a minor precautionary hospitalization. But if he's not in the game, that is a big change.
Right. It's hard to really overstate Leader McConnell's impact within the Republican conference. He is the longest-serving Republican leader, and we don't know, as you point out, how long he will be away in what is already a very narrowly divided Senate and a narrowly divided House. So, every vote is really key. But look, I think he has negotiated with President Biden in the past. He was key to those negotiations under the Obama administration when Biden was vice president. So he certainly will play a critical role, even I think if he's not physically there in person, in these negotiations to come.
And Doug, you know the importance of Mitch McConnell. You've dealt with him on,
this is a
on
big
all
loss.
of these budget negotiations. His knowledge of the budget is unparalleled.
He's extraordinarily knowledgeable. He's a great tactician. And you can just see him watching this debate and waiting for the right time to enter. And let's hope he's well enough to do it when he needs to.
We all wish that this is just a minor issue, and that we're both sitting here in boots from break, so we know what falls and trips can be. Thanks so much, Sabrina. It's great to see you. And Douglas Holtz-Eakin and Carol Lee with all of the breaking news and having her exclusive with the OMB director today. Thank you.